Right, so for the past couple of weeks we've had just this polycarbonate perspex top on just to keep the rain off. It's basically a glorified tarpaulin, just tie wrapped onto the top of the frame so the cockpit stays a little bit dry. I can't do the fiberglassing until the stainless work is done, so that really is a priority now to get this stainless work finished. I've just taken out all of the securing bolts. I've left in a couple because I've got somebody hopefully coming to come and move this and take it to a local farm where I can use the yard to finish the welding and do the grinding and that kind of thing, a little bit more controlled environment. Because obviously if I'm having to MIG it, it creates more sparks, and you know the welds aren't so clean, so there's more grinding to do. If it was TIGged, it would be a little bit less of that kind of work. So we're going to hopefully move this today to a local farm so I can continue with it. But that gives you the idea of what the kind of roofing section will be like. I've just hacked that with the hacksaw just to make it fit. Solar panels work on there. It's got a slight curve to it, and obviously the panels will be mounted on the top of this, and there'll be a handrail, a gutter. There'll be a gutter handrail all the way around the edge that catches the water in the ideal wind. As with all these things, those plans may change as the design develops, but I think that's probably how it will be. And then the front screen and all the way round will all be a full fabric enclosure.
I'm sure most of you have heard of the Duracell project, which is a YouTube channel documenting the work Matt is doing on a 60-foot yacht called Duracell to turn her from an ocean racer into a comfy cruiser. Well, Matt is an absolute expert in fiberglass work and is a professional shipwright, so having him on board to advise us on this project is a huge bonus. Keep watching to see the incredible input we've had from him. Oh,
Hey!
Hey, is that working? Are we on? Yeah, we've got that one.
Yeah.
That one's
Sorry,
on.
I'm late.
How you going, mate? You all right?
Yeah, how are you?
Good. Yeah.
Right, so the frame is in this little garage unit on this farm, so I'm in the dry and I'm in the out of the breeze, so I can work on this nicely. That big box there has arrived, which has got all the foam that I've bought from Matrix on the advice of Matt from Duracell.
The guy from Matrix has suggested to me for the cloth DBM 1708. I don't know what those numbers mean, but it's 600 biax plus minus 45 degrees with 225 grams per meter square. Is that the right stuff?
Yeah, it is.
Cool.
This here is the fiberglass itself, which is the biaxial 1708. This here is the peel ply and some thinner fiberglass cloth for going round the grab handle.
I want to mould in a really substantial grab handle around the side, which acts to catch water, but is also something that you can really rely on to if you're walking down the side deck in bad weather.
Yeah, totally. We're planning on doing the same thing on our doghouse. It's a great idea.
And the box at the back there is all the epoxy and resins and stuff.
And then the epoxy, the stuff that he's got is Sycamin epoxy resins SR5550. He says it's a lower viscosity version of the West system, a good wood marine resin that doesn't need a post cure. I don't know what post cure is.
Well, what I'm going to do today, I'm going to get to work grinding these welds and going over them with my MIG, and then hopefully we can use Andy's TIG welder to just do a cap weld with the TIG tomorrow. And you find us at another new location for Sailing Melody. Look, we've got the entire stainless frame here with some other bits and pieces. We've got all the foam and all the fiberglassing materials here. This is my friend Andy's house. You've seen him on the channel before. This is a huge
kind of manor house called Whitehall that they're in the process of doing up. So it's like a building site in there, but that's ideal because it just means that we can get on with doing building type work without affecting anybody. But this, if you think what we're doing is a project, oh my goodness, this is a project. So this is the Whitehall in Oswestry. Here's some of the grounds that they've got, these enormous great big trees, and I keep saying that he should do a YouTube channel because there's all the buildings down the bottom, and they're going to be doing this up and making it available for people to rent as an Airbnb with lots of beds and that kind of thing. But it's taking a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of money. But fortunately, Andy and Liz are both structural engineers. You know, they're civil engineering people, so they're very, very, very well equipped to do the job. Yeah, and we just transported it all on this old dinghy trailer with a pallet and some ratchet straps, and it went without a hitch. It was absolutely fine. So this is Andy. You've all seen him on the channel before. He's been and helped me with lots and lots of projects on this boat and Steel Melody. And as I say, this is Whitehall, Andy's and Liz's project. And I just thought a quick tour, and we want your opinion, guys, whether you think Andy and Liz should do a YouTube channel about the restoration of Whitehall. Take us round, Andy.
Okay, so Whitehall was originally built in the late 1700s, 1785 I think it was. It's a 2-storey ground plus 2 Georgian house, and then we've got some extensions across the back. Unfortunately, they've had very little work done on the property since around about 1980, 1970, so it's in quite a poor state of repair, and we've had some significant issues with the roof as well. So we'll have a quick walk around inside and show you where the issues are.
Yeah, excellent.
So anyone from the UK who's lived through the 70s will probably recognise this carpet. Our carpets are a very similar style. That was pretty much the deco of the entire property when we first moved in.
Wow.
The main house was initially an L shape, so they've got the main rooms at the front of the property and going off down the left hand side as we're looking now, and then they've had later extensions which has pushed it back and had the servants' quarters on the upper floors and at the back of house. So some of the issues we've got can quite easily be seen in this room.
Oh goodness.
So yeah, we've had issues with levels being made up, watered the entire floor out, so it's a complete strip out and rebuild. And again, anyone in the UK will recognise what a listed building would mean. So this is actually grade 2 listed, which means we can't just go ahead and start all the work straight away. We need to have conversations with the conservation officer and get any updates and modifications changed. Now we've modelled this building, so we've got a digital model of the building as it stands at the moment. But yeah, this is the sort of level of renovation we're looking at. It's pretty much back to brick.
Good grief.
Because previous owners have tried multiple issues when they thought they had damp problems. They put plastic paints on the walls, various different poor insulation options, gypsum plasters been tanked on the walls. So a lot of this needs stripping back and new breathable fabric installed. So this is an original Georgian staircase. So it's very slender, quite light implementation of all the balusters and the railings. So this is something else we're very keen to keep. Likewise, the flooring. Whilst there are issues with beetle attack and they've had issues with weather attacking parts of the flooring, they are lovely broad hardwood floorboards. So we're looking to conserve as much as possible. We've got some lovely side rooms. These are one of the previous masters, and this quirky little thing back now with electronic call buttons when we had the calls for servants and accident there. So additional bedrooms either side. And again, when this was first converted, probably back in the early 1900s, and they started putting services in the property, they've had modifications to this part. They had the ubiquitous 1980s avocado suite put in, and again, flat roof failures where we've had a lead flat roof in this area. So,
whoa, that's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's not a 10-minute turnaround.
No, it's not.
They won't do it, unfortunately. Shows you one of the big issues that we've got with a lot of the roof detailing. So this was a later extension that was put on the property, and they've actually created a dead-ended valley.
I see.
So they try to, as soon as that hole at the end fills up, all this water overfills and then starts running down the walls.
So that's all got to come out?
Our proposal is to try and change it all. We're currently in discussions with conservation officers as to what we can get away with changing.
And this wasn't part of the original building anyway, so you...
No, this is a later infill.
It's a late, yeah. So.
But again, depending on the conservation officer and the general ethos of the development, they also like to show the progression of a building.
I see.
So just because it wasn't original doesn't mean it's not important to the history of the building.
I see, yeah. So there's a lot of that to overcome.
Yeah.
Right, amazing.
But hopefully we can get rid of these pressed concrete tiles and go back to an original slate roof and put some solar panels, some PV in.
And just tell us about your and Liz's credentials to kind of take on this project. You know, what's your background?
My background, I started off as a structural technician, structural draftsman effectively.
Right.
Then got into 3D modelling and building coordination. Spent 8-10 years over in the Middle East, helping to coordinate larger buildings over there, some of these big skyscrapers that are going up.
Right.
Liz is a chartered structural engineer.
Right, okay.
So yeah, she's been working in the industry for 15 years, same as I have.
Right, okay. So you're both supremely qualified to take the more than most.
Yeah, we know what we're getting into.
Yeah.
Although we are finding new issues every now and again. When
Of course, like bats.
Yeah, we've got bats on the property. We had a full ecological and bat survey done a couple of years ago. Unfortunately, due to COVID and the time it's taken to get that through the planning and through listed building consent, the bat count has now expired. So we now have to have another bat survey, which can only be taken at certain times of the year. Right. So again, it's put the project on hold for another 8 months or so.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. So there you go. Do you want to see a YouTube channel of the restoration of Whitehall? I do, but let me know what you think. Show us where we're going to be doing this fiberglassing work then. We were just saying, because we're going to be making it as a single piece and transporting it back as a single piece, which will be much better when we need a big space. This is all part of this project, by the way. This is all part of Whitehall, but we've got plenty of room here.
So we'll open and clean this garage out.
Yeah.
Get this garage to do the work in.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's got old lime plastered ceilings. That's failing. So we've got a bit of a gazebo.
Oh, brilliant!
A gazebo out to work under as outdoor space.
Yeah.
Put it over the top of the
fantastic
works
to avoid dust. Yeah, brilliant. Right, let's get set up. The foam he's suggesting is Armour PET core.
Yeah, and the PET foam is great.
Good.
Yeah, it's super easy to cut. If you are worried about like the angle that you're cutting at, you can use your jigsaw to cut it. But yeah, if you're just trying to make it quick, then just a quick and clean and a razor blade is just fine.
And then thickened epoxy to glue all the panels together if I'm going to make it in one piece.
You can do thickened epoxy for sure. You can also use like super glue.
Oh, really?
CMA glue.
Like cyanoacrylate?
I buy this stuff. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, and you can buy it in different thicknesses. And what I will do if I am gluing multiple pieces of foam together is I use the thick stuff.
And then a kicker.
And yeah, it's great for sticking foam together.
Okay, so we've got our foam pieces all glued together, and we've marked out where our solar panels are going to go, and we marked out where the front of the curve is going to be, and where the sides are going to be for our grab rail, etc, etc. And the next thing is now to work out how we're going to draw that radius on. Apparently we're doing sector maths. Explain that again, Andy.
It's not a radius from your edge point to the centre line.
No.
That'll give you a much tighter arc than what you need.
It's this point.
Yes, so you basically need to find out what the radius will be for a sector that crosses this distance with that section as well.
Yeah. Ooh, right, okay, over to you.
Yeah.
And that will give us our...
That'll give you your total radius.
It should give us the same curve as that. Just further forward.
It'll be offset slightly.
Right, yeah.
Because it's being offset rather than translated.
Yeah. Lovely. This all just means that we can find the centre point of the radius and then draw a lovely, perfect curve. Just for a bit of background information, we purchased all of our foam, resins and glass cloth from Matrix Solutions, and the retail price for all this was just under £1,000. They did do us a little bit of a discount, which was amazing. The delivery was next day and the quality of the project seems great, so that's a big thumbs up to them.
What I do is I get it all set up, so you get all your cloth cut, get your piece of foam ready to go.
The next thing to do then is to get out our fiberglass material and cut a piece of material that will fit this perfectly.
I think this foam is flexible enough for me to just make it in one big sheet and then just bend it. You think it'll snap?
If with that little of a bend, no, it would be fine.
Even with the glass cloth on?
Yeah, so you could do just do the bottom layer on it. Then you could just do the bottom skin and bend it down, and then put the top skin on if you wanted to just bend it that way.
So this is kind of what it'll look like, except it'll be come down more at the front here. And the next stage is to take it in the garage, turn it upside down, and glass cloth the underneath of it. Right, we're all set up. We've got our foam on the floor and plastic under the gazebo to stop anything landing on it, so that can stay there and set. We've got our laying up table with all of our resins and cloth and everything here.
The process would be when you're going to laminate this, the foam is you need to saturate the foam with epoxy before you put anything down. It's just like saturating wood, because the foam will absorb some epoxy.
The first thing that we're going to do is mix up some slightly thickened epoxy, like a slurry, to put onto our foam, because Matt said this.
What I do pretty often is instead of just wetting out the foam with clear epoxy, I thicken it a little bit, not so it's super thick, but give a slurry, maybe a little thinner than like a milkshake, and sweep that over the entire piece of foam. And then since you're using that 1708, that stuff is pretty thick. It takes a lot of epoxy to absorb into the fabric.
So that's what we're doing now. Mix up the first lot by weight and get that on. And then we can mix up some clear epoxy to put on top of it, because Matt said this.
There's two different ways you can do this. You can wet out the foam with the clear resin after you've put the thickener on it.
Yeah.
And then put the matte side down onto the...
onto that.
And then put more, just dump epoxy on it and sweep the epoxy all over the place.
Sure.
Or you could wet out the fiberglass. If you have it on your table and you have it upside down, you can wet out the fiberglass and then flip it onto the foam.
I see.
It's just that you want to get clear epoxy on both sides of that fiberglass, especially before putting it down onto the foam. Just because you'll have a really hard time getting the clear epoxy to absorb all the way through.
There you go. That's what we're doing.
You can figure out how much epoxy you need just by if you weigh your fiberglass when it's dry, then you'll need that amount of epoxy. So if you have a kilo of fiberglass, then you'll need a kilo of mixed resin.
Wow. So that's really, really easy to figure out then.
That's now wetted out with thickened epoxy and clear epoxy on one half, and then we're going to get one half of the cloth down, and then we're going to wet out the other side in clear epoxy and get the other side down, because There was a slight mistake in the order, and we discovered that having started the job, we looked at the actual serial number, and we've been sent the fast cure epoxy resin, not the hardener, not the slow, which means it's fine. It's not going to be any different, just means we've got to work quicker. So we're going to do half and then the other half, because by the time, if we did the whole thing in one big go, by the time we get to laying the cloth, the resin would have gone off too much. So that's why we're doing it.
So with the surface of the foam fully wetted out and soaked in both thickened epoxy and then clear epoxy, we started laying down the cut pieces of glass cloth which we had cut and prepared earlier. We paid careful attention to get the fabric in exactly the right position, allowing an inch or so all the way around the edge because the edges will be laminated later in the process. We spent a good while rolling and squeezing out the fabric to ensure we'd pushed all the bubbles out, although I feel like maybe we could have used even more epoxy than we did on the underside of the fabric, as in a few small places I feel like maybe we didn't get all the bubbles out completely. This was our first attempt at this kind of work, so it's not surprising that it's not as good as if Matt had done it himself, but that's okay, and we can fix any little bubbles later. We then went on to do the exact same thing on the other half, and as you can see, there's a healthy overlap in the fabric, meaning it's double thickness down the centre line. We poured plenty of clear epoxy onto the glass cloth and continued to roll them out, but as Matt predicted, it's pretty hard to push the epoxy through the fabric from above. Of course, remember this whole process will be repeated on the top surface of the roof as well, but we're doing the underside at the moment so that we can flex the roof over the framework, and then when we glass the top section and the fiddle around the edge, the grab rail around the edge, it'll really start becoming a very strong piece of work and hold its strength properly. Just in case you're wondering what we're doing here, we're applying peel ply, which is a fabric material used in epoxy work that offers several benefits in composite and epoxy resin applications. Partly it's involved in surface preparation. It creates a textured surface on the cured epoxy, which improves the adhesion of subsequent layers of epoxy or other materials. It also makes easier removable of excess resin. When you apply epoxy resin to a surface, there's often excess resin that needs to be removed, and peel ply helps with that. It reduces the amount of sanding and surface finishing. By using peel ply, you can kind of minimize the amount of sanding and surface finishing that are required to achieve a smooth paint ready surface. Again, you can see the issue that we had here though was because we got sent the fast epoxy instead of the slow one, we're having to really work hard to get those bubbles out of the peel ply, and in some places the epoxy had already started to cure, meaning we didn't manage to get it to stick down properly. It's not really that big a deal. It doesn't compromise the strength of the job and in any way whatsoever. The peel ply is really just sucking out excess epoxy and providing a textured surface on the finish, so it won't affect the strength of the job at all. Just might mean a little bit more sanding later. Let's see what the progress is like on our cockpit enclosure roof. And there we are. This is the underside, and this is the peel ply, which I'm going to pretty much leave on. The bits that you can see that aren't saturated through are just where it's overlapped, by the way, so there's nothing to worry about there. So this piece actually overlaps that one. So I just want to see how it's actually turned out. So I might peel off just a little bit, and I'm going to trim the rest and then leave most of it on. Oh, yeah, that's beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. So I'm going to trim the excess peel ply off, but leave most of it on, just so that it protects the surface from movement and dirt and all kinds of stuff. I'll just leave that bit down the middle. That's just where the peel ply overlaps one layer onto the next. And I don't want to trim it off too close, because when we come to peel the peel ply off, I want to make sure that I've got enough to get a good hold of, because I don't want to have to be peeling it off in little bits like peeling an orange. When you guys going to come over to the UK?
It's gonna be a while.
Yeah, it'll be the same for us.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get over there.
Yeah, you might beat us over here before we get over there.
Well, when you launch, where are you headed? You headed to the Caribbean?
Oh no. We'll stick in the Pacific for a long time before we go off and get to Europe or anything like that. Yeah,
okay.
There's plenty to do out here first.
Well, we're going to do a circumnav of the UK. Then we're going to head off down south to Portugal, and we're thinking because of the orca problem, we might avoid the Med and just go straight to the Caribbean, through the Bahamas, across to Panama, and then into the Pacific, and just get gone. So we might see you in the Pacific.
Hell yeah! There you go. We'll be there.
Cheers, mate. Thank you very much.
Good to talk to you.
Yeah, you too.
Have a
Thanks
good
for your
one.
time. I really, really appreciate it.
No worries.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.